So I got a few questions about the arcade machine. Now yes, it was a custom build. I'd put it together probably about 20 years ago now. So as you can see, it's a pretty simple sort of looking arcade machine. It's not as fancy as the original Mortal Kombat arcade machine. And sure enough, after doing those Mortal Kombat videos, I figured that perhaps it was time to give the arcade cabinet a bit of a makeover, a bit of a change, and I'll document that in this episode as well. And so here it is, my new revamped cabinet.
Special!
And I'm pretty happy. Let's take a closer look. So as you can see, I decided to go with a Neo Geo sort of theme this time. Again, as you've seen from previous videos, I've talked a lot about Neo Geo and what a big fan I am of those old games. I didn't want to try and copy an exact Neo Geo cabinet because, well, it's not an actual Neo Geo cabinet. That'd be like saying I've got a Ford car and I'm trying to make it look like a Holden. It just doesn't make any sense. So I thought I'd make it kind of unique, a little bit of a combination of the Neo Geo idea with other games as well. As you can see, the red and white stripes are very much in the style of the Neo Geo cabinets. There's a lot of red on here, but there's also a lot of black. There's obviously not much that I could have done about the Street Fighter button layout here, but I do see this as the standard for any cabinet. You just can't go wrong with 6 buttons this way. 20 years of having a black colour scheme down the side, I got a bit bored with it. It almost looked like a bit of a coffin to me. So I thought I'd mix it up, put a few red lines on there, and well, this was the result on both sides. I had to deal with a lot of paint deterioration, again because the paint was pretty old by this stage. So this was a project that I didn't want to spend too much time on. Again, it was just a simple revamp. Change some of the colours, change the joysticks. So the goal was to try and spend as little money as possible without going overboard. So there were little blemishes here and there, little problems with the cabinet that probably I'm not 100% happy with. But at the end of the day, if I really wanted to go balls to the wall, I would have started a brand new cabinet, I guess. I would have started from scratch. So rather than just chucking the whole thing away, I thought I'd just do what I need to do to get by. I mean, then again, who knows? This may sit in the corner for another 20 years again anyway. All I wanted was the visual change. So let's take a closer look at what we've done here. Okay, the first idea that I had was to change the joysticks around. I was sick of the ball top joysticks. Now, I was always a fan of the original Australasian joysticks. You can still find them these days, but with the control panel set up here, I'd have to go for the bat tops. I don't mind the bat tops at all. Why are they called bat tops? Because they look like the top of a bat. The problem was, they felt too low. Again, as was the style with the Australasian joysticks, they were quite tall. So, get one of these extenders, and bang, you've got a taller joystick. Now, taller joysticks aren't to everybody's liking. Everybody's got their preference, but this, I like this. So as you can see up here, we've got King of Fighters 94. Final Fight, which is a Capcom game. You know, real about Fatal Fury. Bad Dudes. SNK vs Capcom Chaos. Double Dragon 2. The Art of Fighting. Vigilante. World Heroes. and Fatal Fury Special. So something that did originally spark my interest in wanting to reskin my cabinet was the release of these arcade 1-up machines. That included the Street Fighter 2 arcade machine. Can I justify getting myself one of these? Not really, not with a full-size cabinet around. If I didn't have my full-size cabinet, I definitely would have bought one of these. I would have taken the 3 games out and put all the games in. But yeah, this thing did tempt me. So next up was repainting a few of the panels, a few of the boards and things that go around the screen. Got the old paint roller out again, haven't used one of these for about 20 years. A few undercoats. Bit of paint here, bit of paint there. And yeah, I kind of forgot how much I hate to paint. Because you get this stuff, you get hairs and things that get stuck in the paint. And then I have to kind of pick it out and then just repaint it again. So yeah, I forgot why I hated painting with the roller. Look at that. Jeez. So painting. Alright, now this is the part that I find fun. Artwork. This Neo Geo SNK inspired Fatal Fury special piece of artwork here. This was a custom piece using the existing Fatal Fury special artwork. I redid all the text and arrows and things on it. They were low resolution. And of course here we've got the Street Fighter Champion Edition one. And they were going to go on these things. Alright, they were painted up. The edges here, a bit of white, easily fixed with a marker. So we'll just use our marker to get rid of the white stuff on the side here. Beautiful, look at that. Okay, now it was just a matter of cutting the square out of the middle of the artwork. That was going to be tricky, but got some pins. With the pins we were going to make holes. Wherever the holes were, that was where my line was going to be. Now it was time to cut from hole to hole, and here we go. Check this out. Halfway there. Oh, I love it when a plan comes together, look at that. Check out my cutting board. So again, the edges to the artworks here, they had a bit of that white treatment on the side as well. So what do? Match up the colors, get a bit of marker action out. Not too much because the marker bleeds over. And white stripe gone, as you can see. No more white stripes. Time to put pins on the second piece here, which is the Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition artwork, which is underneath. And here we go, time to cut it up. Now this was the idea I had to kind of keep the artwork from moving around while I glued it. Piece of wood and a little bit of weight. So I was going to glue the bottom part first and then the top part Why? Because I was using spray glue, and my experience with spray adhesive or spray glue in the past hasn't been all that good. I didn't want to take any chances this time, so here we go. And check that out, after a day, it's nice and solid. Now time to glue the other side. And beautiful, there's our board, there's our artwork. Now of course this is custom artwork that I did that was based on the original Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition artwork. The original artwork was just grey. I think it gives it a custom touch, and it reminds me a lot more of the cabinets that I was around as a kid. And here we go, some of the bad artwork on the side of this thing. That's part of the charm. And I got rid of the names of the bosses on the top because they had the spelling mistake as well with Balrog. Balrog looking a bit too dark there, but again that's a charm of the artwork on these old cabinets, you know? The artwork is terrible. Here we've got the SNK artwork that I worked on. A bit of artwork here, sketches from Real Bout Fatal Fury in the background. The original Fatal Fury special character list down here. I rewrote every move set, repositioned every arrow on there just to make it clearer, because originally it was a low resolution picture. Here we go, more artwork. Now we've got the Bad Dudes artwork. As you can see, the measurements didn't quite match up. Now, when I got this printed out, it was at the proper measurements and I wasn't supposed to hack away any of the artwork. But as you can see here, the kind people at the printing place didn't exactly print it to the proper size, so I lose a chunk, look at that, of the artwork on each of these things. Thankfully, we don't lose too much, so the artwork is still workable. I mean, look at that. Vigilante. Losing quite a bit there again, but it's cool. Double Dragon 2, we lost a heap of that, and the Final Fight artwork. So I spray glued the artworks to their boards and gave them the appropriate time to dry. I had to use this buddy, my old friend Super Glue, because after a few days this supposed adhesive spray wears off. So what once looked like it was glued on perfectly starts to peel. A bit of super glue on a piece of paper, just insert it underneath like this, push the paper down, and sure enough you've repaired your artwork. As for using this adhesive spray ever again, well, they can get stuffed. And here we go, our boards. So what I did was, the boards are reversible. You can change them on the arcade cabinet. You can swap them around. There's a piece of artwork on one side and a piece of artwork on the other side. And this is what they ended up looking like in the end, and I was quite happy, you know. Now the marquee here is very reminiscent of the old Neo Geo cabinets. I just wanted it to be in the same sort of style. I wasn't going for an authentic look or something that was just like the Neo Geo. I think it's more of a tribute to the Neo Geo cabinets, and I wasn't specifically focusing on just Neo Geo games. Now these particular games, I've got memories of them. I remember playing Vigilante back when it was a brand new game in a fish and chip shop just up the road from my grandparents' house. Bad Dudes, that was one of the first beat 'em up games that I got on my family's Amstrad CPC computer back in the day. I also made a blue Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition marquee, we'll be showing that one later on. It goes with the Champion Edition artwork that we saw earlier.
Round 2, fight!
Next up, I had to do something about the crevices on this thing. The little spider holes. Things get into it quite easily, you don't even know they're there because it's on the bottom. So how was I going to seal up these gaps? I can seal up this small gap no problem with some of that expander foam. As for the big section here, not sure what I was going to do with it. Any leftover expander foam? Check out some of the wet rot here. This was how it was about 20 years ago, thankfully it stayed like this. I'll try and seal it up a little bit with paint. I never painted the inside of the cabinet, which was a bit of a mistake. probably should have. Now, to make the cabinet a bit more mobile as well, I had a few of these mattress wheels hanging around in the garage. They don't make the cabinet too tall, they're just the right height. The cabinet doesn't roll away when you play it because it's got weight behind it, and it pretty much only moves when you want it to move. Next thing was to try and seal up some of this horrible wood with whatever paint leftovers I had, and as you can see, well, it doesn't matter if it's a mess on the bottom, on the inside nobody's going to see it. I wasn't exactly going to go out and buy new paint, so I was using whatever scraps I could find. Now the big thing that I wanted to do was paint the wood on the inside of the cabinet. Why? Because this is old wood, and what would happen during summertime is it would stink. So I heard that if you paint over this kind of wood, that you can kind of seal in the rot, and the smell isn't really going to escape. We'll give it a try, we'll see. Now this is the original glass that came with the cabinet. Still going strong. Now this was some sturdy glass. Thick. Look at that. And this is also the original piece of wood that was around the original monitor. Look how badly this is cut. That's not any kind of shape. And it's just a random sort of curve there. Look at that. Clearly, if they were going by some kind of stencil, they didn't really care if things were straight. Just the mind boggles with shapes like this. Okay, for the section above the control panel, I thought this was a nice little texture here, 3D sort of a texture. We'll reskin that top part. No spray glue this time, just good old super glue. And bang, looking good. Okay, so here's the new coin slot, straight from eBay. Very cheap and mass-produced sort of piece here. You can hook it up, I don't think I will. I don't know, I was kind of expecting a piece that was made out of metal. Check it out, that looks like the sight of an M41A pulse rifle from the movie Aliens. This is where it was going to go. Now again, you could recall that my woodworking skills are absolute crap. I don't have the appropriate tools, so we're going to wing it. We're going to go guerrilla style. I've got a drill. I'm going to do some cutting with the drill. Wish me luck. Now I'm sure I'm doing all kinds of woodwork no-nos here, please forgive me. If it works, it works. More holes, and some more holes, to the point now that we can just push the wood out. Sawdust, should not have done that, never mind. Dramatic, yes. Okay, here we go, fitting the piece in, and as you can see, it fits in beautifully. And hoping that the scrappy sides are going to be covered up here. Here we go. Once it's cleaned up, this is what it's going to look like. So we just screw some bolts in. Beautiful. And I'm quite happy with it. So you'll notice that I didn't have a coin chute before. Well, now I do. And I like the way it looks. I'll just have to replace this blue insert token sticker at some point. Let the games begin.
Round 1, fight!
Here we are looking at the inside of the cabinet, that's the back of the speakers. Now as you can see, check out these little holes, one hole there, one there. Little sections, little tiny little crevices where bugs and crappy Aussie spiders live. So we're going to seal up these holes, and there's the expanding foam. Once it dries up, we just cut away the excess foam. Same with the top here. Looks like I've got a pork bun shoved in the speaker hole. and sealing up some more crevices in here. Looks a bit dirty, a little bit messy, but don't worry, we'll trim that stuff up. A nice Stanley knife and a bit of paint. Alright, let's start repainting some of that old wood. I've got a oil-based paint here that I found. Again, I'm trying to save money here, so whatever I've got lying around, I'll use. And this wood here, this wood was just soaking up the paint. Type of wood that it was. These are original wet stains from the 90s, ladies and gentlemen. This is the bottom of the cabinet again. So with the rest of my foam spray, let's see what we can do here. Yeah, look at all this ectoplasm everywhere. It's ectoplasm, I swear. This section here doesn't have to be as neat and tidy as the other sections because nobody's ever going to see this. It's a little bit of a deterrent for bugs because we don't have those little sections on the side of the wheels now exposed. Whatever, it's my paranoia. And that little section underneath, well, that's nicely all sealed up. As you can see, we just cut away the excess foam here. Very nice. Looks like cheese. And then the remainder of the air holes we get, we'll also seal that up with gap sealer. Here we go. And a bit of gap sealer all throughout. And these are all the offcuts from the expandable foam. A lot of cutting. So here I am painting the inside of the cabinet. Sure enough, I lucked out and found half a can of house paint. This chunk of cardboard here is pretty much the back of the cabinet. Originally I had to cut the back of the cabinet out just to fit in the old computer monitor. But now that we're using smaller monitors these days, I can actually seal up the back of the cabinet. The fact that the cardboard isn't a heavy chunk of wood also helps. And here it is, nicely painted up.
Round 1. Fight!
Okay, here comes the stencil. Now, seeing as the cabinet is a bit of a tribute to the old Capcom games and the old Neo Geo SNK games, I figured why not have both the Capcom and SNK logos on the side. So I figured that I'd rig up a bit of a stencil here. Looks fun. Get our trusty knife out again and do some cutting. Now, as usual, because my mind is elsewhere, I didn't prep the paint underneath. So I'm getting my stencil looking pretty good here at this point. I'm quite happy. And as you can see, some of this old black paint is starting to peel off onto my tape here. That's the stencil on the other side. This was quite time consuming, enough to make you go cross-eyed. Being a little bit on the lazy side, I should have used spray paint, but instead I used some of this white paint that I had hanging around. Not the best idea, as you will see. So I thought I'd put some Neo Geo-esque red speed stripes down the side. This is all ready to get painted up as well. Just random stripes. And alas, the red paint did not turn out so well. And because my mind was elsewhere, as what happens with life, I forgot to prep the surface underneath. Therefore, you can just scratch the paint away. And all that stenciling that I did was for nothing. Now, I can scratch all the paint off, that's fine, but because I've cut into the wood, there is no way that I can remake the stencil and have it in the exact same spot. Time to get some spray paint. And sure enough, this stuff is beautiful, Rust-Oleum. I've even used this stuff on my car. It bonds to just about anything. It's paint and primer together. It's a quality spray paint. It very rarely drips. It's just great stuff. You can get it in a couple of different colors, and luckily, cherry red was exactly what I was looking for. So our speed stripes down the side here worked out quite well, and it's just a shame that the Capcom and SNK logos turned out the way they did. I was toying with the idea of just keeping them looking like this, like they were retro. I gave myself a few days to think about it. Have a look at the side of the cabinet here. Now, the black paint is starting to peel now. There is no way in hell that I'm going to sand down the whole side of this thing again, like I did 20 years ago, just so I can repaint it. I'm not going to bust my balls here, I'm just doing what I can. I don't want it to look like shit, but I do have better things to do with my time, and this is just a little tiny side project. Just to, how does the saying go? Put lipstick on a pig. I mean, it's one funky looking pig, but yeah. And so that's cool, time to make up some artwork on the computer. I enjoy that. Now, instead of just getting a poster and sticking it on the side here, you can actually buy custom printed decals from a place called Officeworks. Again, their printing department is run by kids, so don't expect too much. I mean, I actually had a person one time resave a high quality piece of artwork into a 60% compressed JPEG, which blew my mind. They didn't know the difference between a BMP and a JPEG. And here's the artwork. It's got a peel off back, so I can just stick it straight on. It doesn't feel like paper, it feels like material, like those material band-aid strips that you can get. Problem is, the young folks that cut this thing to size for me didn't cut it straight. And I've got a few white sections appearing around the edges, which is going to look really bad once it's stuck to something that's black. So it turns out the more you cut this material, the more threads come out. You pull at the material, it just kind of peels the picture off, which is bad. I don't have anything that can cut this stuff. It becomes like frayed material, as you can see. So I figured I'd do a bit of cover-up work here. I've still got some leftover black oil paint. I've got a pin, and sure enough, if I poke at these little sections here with that black paint, it absorbs into the poster here, and we have no more white sections. Problem solved. So I thought I'd do some crafty stuff with some leftover foam that I had here. It's got a bit of a shine to it, which is pretty cool. Make some stars. Whip up some stars here, cut them out, look at that, shiny, and just place them to the side of the cabinet in a random sort of fashion. Don't want them the same on both sides, so one side is different to the other. I'm not 100% happy with having just a square logo on the side of the cabinet. So this kind of creates an illusion. It's not a square anymore, now it's got the star bits on the side. Kind of distracts your eye, so you're not seeing a square picture anymore, you're seeing a different shape.
Round 2.
Okay, time to put the control panel back in. So as you can see, we've sealed up the inside of our wood quite nicely with that beautiful house paint that I found. These are the custom made sections here that will fit my control panel right in. Originally I had chunks of wood lodged between the control panel and the cabinet. This time I'm actually going to put gap sealer in here because, well, I don't think I'm ever going to remove this piece again. If I'm ever going to do a project like this again, I'll be starting from scratch and all this stuff's going to get scrapped anyway. So, time for some gap sealer. This is going to make it solid. Like the icing on a cake. Now we place the control panel in. As you can see, it fits in quite nicely. Now I just gotta kind of hit it down and match up the holes on the side. Screw it back in. So I don't know, what have I got here? About six screws, and then some other screws on the inside. And once this gap sealer seals up, it's just gonna be one piece. Beautiful. Check out those other sealed up gaps that I did earlier with the expanding foam, that's cool. Okay. So as you can see, it's all nicely screwed in now. It's very, very solid. I mean, it was solid before as well. And there it is, all nicely installed. So I've got two triangular off-cut pieces, really scrappy looking pieces here, but they get covered up, that's all cool. One on each side. So those kind of hold the front panel in. Then I just screw it in. And sure enough, there we go, there's the front face. So, it's all painted up nice and white inside. It appears that the paint has blocked the bad smell of the wood, which is good. And now we just want to put our computer in here. So this is our subwoofer multimedia box, probably a bit bigger than what we should be using, but it packs a kick. So let's hook this up to our speakers. This is going to go to the PC. Simple, really simple. There is our PC. The old Pentium 3 still going strong. Don't worry, everything on here is backed up, so when it does die I can just replace it. This is a neon tube left over from one of my old cars back in, I don't know, early 2000s. This is the original light bulb from the cabinet. It's going to get hooked up to our 40-cent piece window here. This gets incredibly hot, by the way. There's our old ass hard drive. And there is our unit. So time to install the little globe here. This is hooked up straight into the computer, so the computer is powering the light bulb. Every time the computer is on, the light bulb turns on. Bit of double-sided tape, and we're installed. And also here we've got our neon tube. This is hooked up straight into the computer as well. So as soon as the computer turns on, the neon tube also turns on. And that's going to be the light for the inside of the cabinet. So we can place it anywhere within the cabinet. So thankfully we've got a few shelves, and this one here is perfect. So just stick it there. And check out that glow, that's pretty cool. In the dark, this is what it looks like. Now here, we're going to hook up our control panel. Not that it's a problem, but just to keep airflow going, we've got a USB fan. We can hook in as many of those as we want, but we've got this one. The direction can be changed. Now it's time to mount our monitor, and check these pieces of foam out. You know those pieces of foam that you get when you buy a new TV or a new monitor and you chuck that stuff away? If you keep it, it's pretty handy. Check this out. Check out the shape and size of this stuff. It fits in these crevices perfectly. It's like it was made for my cabinet. Check it out. It just worked out perfectly. And these four pieces here are going to hold my new Philips monitor. Now keep in mind, for a project like this, you need to use a monitor that is IPS. I didn't know that before. IPS monitors look the same from different angles. There are other monitors where when you look to the side it kind of gets dark or it gets black. Now seeing as the monitor has to be tilted in this cabinet, we have to use an IPS monitor. And as you can see, the foam is the perfect size and it fits perfectly. I just cut a little chunk at the bottom there so that you can have access to the power button, as you can see. I took these two clamps off an old painting tripod. They used to hold the canvas for painting, well now they're holding the monitor. As you can see with the nice bolt here, we can adjust it to whatever shape we want. and it's nice and solid. It's giving us extra strength to hold the monitor in place. So there's no way that this monitor is going to move at all. It's wedged in here quite solidly. It's like the two pieces were made for each other. It's just insane. I was a happy camper when I got this monitor, I tell you. Now something that's quite cool is back when I first made this cabinet, these things didn't exist. So I basically just had a mouse hanging out of the back of the unit here. Now that these beautiful things have come along, and being cordless, well, operating the PC in this thing is a piece of cake. Now we're going to turn on the computer for the first time since our little rebuild here. Okay, let's have a look inside. So what do we got inside here? Here's our multimedia subwoofer box, here's our computer. As you can see, beautiful white walls in here. We've got our little tube up there for light. No smell of wood rot at all. And we're turning on for the first time. Here we go. Quite a loud, noisy unit. Thankfully the door closes and we don't have to hear that. Again, it's an old computer, so of course it's going to be loud. There's our USB fan. The green light is pretty cool, I like it. And check out this old BIOS screen. And Windows XP booting up. So here we are, our menu boots up on its own. It's a very simple menu, it's called arcade.exe. Clearly there's nothing special about it, but it works. If it works, it works. Our very first game that we're going to try is the Genesis version of Terminator 2. Here we go. So we are now online. Now I had shooting games on this cabinet originally because I had one of those old USB light guns. Light guns became very rare over the years, just because they never really worked well with computers. Now it's time to put some boards around the actual monitor, some blue tack around the sides. Thankfully this monitor can also change itself into 4x3. We're going to be using our original 4x3 square setup. We're going to put our board straight over the top. This covers the sides of the monitor. We're going to put a second board around the side of that board. So this way we don't have to measure anything up with the cabinet. It just goes by wherever the monitor itself is. We've got our original wooden piece here that sits around. So there's our artwork. And we've got a completely disguised monitor. So there's the front of the cabinet without the front panel. Now this is our first look at the cabinet as it's working. Here it is in the dark for the first time.
Round 2, fight!
I'm retransferring things onto this unit. I forgot how slow the old USBs used to be. These files aren't exactly huge, but check out how long I've got to wait just to transfer this stuff. So while things are copying over here, I'll just keep myself occupied. Should be done soon. Still not done. Watch some TV.
Kano is not Australian. He was played by an Australian actor.
Still copying. It's a nightmare. This stuff just will never end. It just goes on and on. Until finally. And here's our front end, our menu selection. It's the same one that I used previously. It's really old. It's called arcade.exe. It's a great front end. It's simple, it's not graphic intensive. Windows XP handles it with no problems, and I like it.
Round 2. Fight!
So there you have it, a new facelift, a new toy. I'm quite happy with the way it turned out. I mean, there wasn't really any more life left in that last cabinet. So I'm quite happy to have a new rehash here, so to speak. It's given it new life. New controls, new paint, you know, new artwork, new marquee. It's good for a change. If you've been a long life fan of retro gaming like myself, hopefully this inspires you. Maybe you could go out there and make your own cabinet as well. Like I said previously, I'm not very well inclined in woodworking, handyman type stuff like that, but it was a fun project, it was fun to learn, and I guess it's something I can be proud of. So, until next time, hope you enjoyed the videos, and stay safe.